Hello again from the beautiful Back Bay on Estero Island. Yes, we're talking Fort Myers Beach, which will forever be scarred by Hurricane Ian. It will never fully heal from those scars, just like I won't ever fully heal from my emotional scars, which is why the title of this video is Stopping the Madness. It's a brief journey into my mental health. Of course, just like anyone, that journey started in childhood, but let's talk about the most recent journey. I'm just one day out of Park Royal Psychiatric Hospital. Yep, voluntarily checked myself in, put myself under suicide watch because I needed a break. And I had snapped Thursday night last week in a fight with my girlfriend. And so I checked myself in the next day and spent 5 days, I believe, 4 or 5 days in the psych ward voluntarily to get a hold of myself, to refocus, to document my abuse, because I've suffered narcissistic abuse for months with my current person. And so you would think, first day fresh out of the hospital, you go to a nice lunch, you have some nice conversation, you catch up, that you'd be able to survive that first day back home with your abuser, you know, hoping to steer clear of any negative conversations, hoping to just have a nice time decompressing from what you just experienced in the nut house. But no, I wasn't given that space. Even when I asked for it, even when I begged for peace, I was met with chaos, because it's constant chaos in her world. And she couldn't leave it alone. She had to talk about how it affected her, even though I was the one seeking medical treatment for a mental health issue. Just like going to the ER, if you break a bone or have some physical ailment, I had a mental break and I went to get treatment in the ER at the psychiatric hospital. So things escalated and there was more arguing and fighting over who's the crazy one and who's getting the most help for their emotional baggage. And it's not a competition. I've been at this for a very long time, for more than 20 years, dealing with my mental health, going to therapists, checking myself in voluntarily, journaling daily, meditating, knowing who I am, loving myself, all those things that you're supposed to do to protect your mental health. I've been practicing for more than 20 years. She's been in therapy for a few months, almost 50 years old, and hasn't dealt with childhood traumas. So we're not on the same page there. We're not anywhere close to the same ballpark. But she's always trying to level the playing field with the classic narcissistic response, but you, and the projection, and the blaming, and the projecting. I mean, it's nonstop, it's constant. And I've been suffering that abuse for a while, so part of the reason for checking myself in was to document the abuse, which I did with 2 psychiatrists and other mental health experts. I shared stories with patients there who understood that I probably was the wrong partner in the facility, but I actually take my mental health seriously, and I have for a very long time. So I did it partly to document the abuse and partly to make a point. This is what you do when you're suffering and when you're struggling mentally to cope with life, to cope with your relationship, to cope with the abuse. This is what you do. That point was totally lost on her because it was all about how she felt about it yesterday, and that's where it went off the rails. I didn't want to talk about her feelings. I just for once wanted my feelings validated. I wanted her to get the message that I was sending, that this isn't okay, and I'm not going to put up with the abuse anymore because I deserve better. I didn't come into this relationship to be abused. I came in here to be loved. But let's go back to childhood. Let's talk about the roots of all this, because, you know, at 5 years old, I was caught exposing myself to a neighborhood girl who was also exposing herself to me because we were 5 and we were curious. It's nature. It's what kids do. Show me yours and I'll show you mine kind of thing. Well, I was caught behind the bushes with the neighborhood girl, and my mom took it out severely on my backside with a yardstick. Beat the shame right into me. From that moment on, I felt unworthy, not good enough, shameful for doing what kids do all the time. Fast forward, 6 years old, We've been ripped out of our hometown with our huge family support network to a city where we didn't really have family. We had to make all new friends. I had to start grade school in a totally unknown environment in a Catholic school. More shame, more guilt, more punishment for just being a kid. And I was a late bloomer. I didn't learn to ride my bike till I was 5 years old. I wasn't an athlete. I gave up on sports in the 5th grade. I realized I wasn't cut out for that. I was a musician. I realized that at 10 years old. Was that good enough? No. I was criticized and shamed for, you name it, lots of things. And then there was the religious guilt on top of it, everything. And we switched churches and denominations several times. And you know, part of my mom's reaction or overreaction to my exposing myself at 5 years old was that she had untreated sexual traumas from her childhood, and I think that triggered her. I understand that. My parents had a lot of untreated mental health issues. My mom's side, there's a history of depression and suicide, so I've owned that shit. Had my own suicidal episode in December of 2000. I'm almost at the 24-year mark from the last time that I checked myself into a facility. You know, I think it was voluntarily that time too, but I mean, I obviously needed the help. I tried to kill myself. This time I wasn't at that point. I just needed a break. And I'd had a mental break on Thursday night. So Friday, bust my happy ass right up to the hospital and checked in. So that's what you do when you have a mental health emergency. You go to a mental health facility. Now, I will say that Park Royal, the 3rd floor where they put me with the other people, mostly alcoholics and drug addicts, is treated more like a rehab facility, and they treated me like I was detoxing from alcoholism. Let me be clear, I've never been an alcoholic. I've been accused of it once by an ex-wife who was being vindictive, and the mental health facility this time, you know, thought because I drank bourbon on a regular basis that I was an alcoholic, but I don't need it. I've put it down many times for months at a time, especially when I couldn't afford the alcohol. I just didn't drink. Didn't need to drink. I didn't suffer withdrawals, didn't have the shakes, never had a seizure, but I was given seizure medication at the hospital and put on Ativan, tapered Ativan to, you know, help me with my withdrawals. I made it clear to the psychiatrist multiple times in there that I've never been diagnosed with alcoholism, but that's not a problem. Does it run in my family? Yep. On my dad's side, I think my grandfather was. Never been diagnosed with that, and I don't suffer that, and I know myself well enough to tell you I'm not an alcoholic. I don't need the alcohol. I just choose it as a coping mechanism. It's not a good choice. It's a depressant. I understand that, but I like the way that it numbs me and makes me feel. And do I need it all the time? No, I need it situationally, just like I suffer depression situationally. And this situation got to the point where I didn't want to suffer any more abuse, and I needed a break from it, and I got a 4 or 5 day break. So I'm stopping the madness. I'm putting an end to it. I'm getting out of the toxic, abusive relationship, and I'm going to move away from here. But that's really all I had to say. I think I'm going to leave it at that for now, and thank you for listening. Love, peace, and positivity to everybody. We all deserve it. We're human beings, not human doings. Because we are beings, we deserve love, peace, positivity in our lives. Keep after your mental health, friends. Doyle out.